Billionaire CEO hears Black Janitor speak 9 languages. What he does next leaves everyone shocked.
Behind every table, there's a story, and behind every smile, there's a secret. Welcome to the Black Line Stories. Subscribe the channel and let us know where are you watching us from.
Janitor you've overlooked for years turned out to be the genius your company needed. What if one simple conversation changed everything? You thought you knew about success, talent, and human potential. Marcus Jameson was a name that carried weight. At 45, he was the kind of man who could silence a room with a single glance. His tech company, J-Tech Innovations, wasn't just a business. It was a global force, revolutionizing AI-driven logistics and raking in billions annually. Marcus had built it from a cramped garage in Silicon Valley to a sprawling corporate empire, with offices in 12 countries. His success was no accident. He was relentless, a man who prized efficiency, results, and loyalty above all else. His employees revered and feared him in equal measure. To them, Marcus was a machine, sharp, calculating, and untouchable. But beneath the tailored suits and steely demeanor, Marcus was restless. He'd conquered every goal he'd set, yet something gnawed at him. Late nights in his corner office, staring at the city skyline, he wondered if this was all there was. More deals, more money, more power. The world saw him as a titan, but he felt like a man running out of mountains to climb. His days were a blur of meetings, contracts, and high-stakes decisions. He barely noticed the army of workers who kept J-Tech's headquarters running. The receptionists, the security guards, the janitors. To Marcus, they were cogs in a well-oiled machine, invisible unless something broke. That was his world, a place where results mattered and people were judged by their output. Until one night, everything changed. It was past 9 p.m., and the 47th floor of J-Tech's headquarters was deserted. Marcus had stayed late, poring over a merger proposal worth $2 billion. His office, a sleek fortress of glass and steel, was lit only by the glow of his laptop and the city lights beyond. The silence was a rare gift, a moment to think without, the constant hum of corporate life. Then he heard it. A voice, low and rhythmic, drifted through the open door. It was speaking French, not the halting touristy kind Marcus had heard at board meetings in Paris, but fluid, elegant, like poetry set to a melody. Curious, Marcus stepped out of his office, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. The voice grew clearer as he approached the far end of the floor, near the service elevator. There, in the dim glow of a flickering fluorescent light, stood Eli Collins, the janitor. He was speaking to a man in a delivery uniform, his hands gesturing animatedly as he switched seamlessly to Spanish, then back to French. The delivery man, a wiry Latino with a tired smile, nodded and laughed, clearly at ease. Marcus stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Eli, the man who mopped floors and emptied trash cans, was holding court like a diplomat, his words dancing between languages with effortless grace. Eli was in his early 50s, with a lean frame, and graying hair cropped close to his scalp. His navy blue janitor's uniform was immaculate, despite the late hour, and his eyes held a quiet intensity that Marcus had never noticed before. The delivery man left, and Eli turned, catching Marcus's gaze. For a moment, neither man spoke. "Evening, Mr. Jameson," Eli said, his voice steady but guarded. He adjusted the mop in his hand, as if retreating back into his role. Marcus hesitated. "That was impressive," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the spot where the delivery man had stood. "French and Spanish? Where'd you learn to speak? Like that?" Eli's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "Picked it up here and there," he said, his tone neutral. He started to turn away, but Marcus wasn't done. Here and there? Marcus pressed, stepping closer. That wasn't just conversational. You sounded like a native. Eli shrugged, his eyes flicking to the floor. Just something I do, sir. Helps pass the time. Marcus didn't buy it. There was a story here, and for the first time in years, he was genuinely curious about someone other than himself. Join me for a coffee, he said. More a command than an invitation. Eli hesitated, then nodded. All right, sir. They sat in the empty cafeteria, the fluorescent lights casting long shadows across the tables. Marcus sipped his espresso, watching Eli carefully. The janitor held his coffee mug with both hands, his posture relaxed but alert, like a man used to being underestimated. Tell me about yourself, Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. And don't give me that here and there nonsense. Eli's eyes met his, and for a moment, Marcus saw something flicker. Pride, maybe, or defiance. Then Eli began to talk. He'd grown up in a small town in Georgia, the son of a schoolteacher, and a factory worker. From a young age, he'd been obsessed with languages, teaching himself Spanish from library books and practicing with migrant workers who passed through town. By the time he was 18, he was fluent in 4 languages, including Mandarin, which he'd learned from a neighbor who'd spent years in China. I wanted to be a translator, Eli said, his voice soft but steady. Maybe even a professor. But life, it doesn't always care about your plans. He'd traveled the world in his 20s, working odd jobs, dishwasher in Paris, tour guide in Morocco, street vendor in Beijing. Everywhere he went, he soaked up languages like a sponge, mastering Arabic, Portuguese, and even less common dialects, like Wolof and Amharic. But money was always tight, and when his mother fell ill, Eli returned home to care for her. Dreams of academia faded as he took whatever work he could find to pay the bills. I've been a janitor for 15 years, Eli said, his gaze distant. It's honest work. Keeps the lights on. Marcus leaned forward, his mind racing. You're telling me you speak 9 languages fluently, and you're mopping floors for a living. Why didn't you tell anyone? Eli's expression hardened. People see what they want to see, Mr. Jameson. A black man with a mop? They don't ask questions. They assume that's all I am. The words hit Marcus like a punch. He'd built his empire on spotting talent, yet he'd walked past Eli every day for years without a second glance. Shame crept into his chest, but he pushed it down. You're wasted here, he said. You should be in a boardroom, not a broom closet. Eli chuckled, a low, bitter sound. You think it's that simple? The world doesn't work that way for people like me. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't know how. But as he watched Eli sip his coffee, he felt something shift inside him. A spark of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Over the next few weeks, Marcus made a point to talk to Eli whenever he could. Their conversations became a ritual. Late nights in the cafeteria, discussing everything from global politics to the nuances of Swahili grammar. Eli's mind was a treasure trove, not just of languages, but of wisdom, forged from years of navigating. A world that often overlooked him. Marcus found himself laughing, debating, and learning in ways he hadn't since his startup days. But there was something else about Eli. Something he wasn't saying. Marcus noticed the way he moved sometimes. Slow and deliberate, like he was conserving energy. There were days when Eli's eyes were rimmed with fatigue, though he never complained. Marcus chalked it up to long hours, until he overheard a hushed phone call. Eli was in the break room, speaking in low tones. I'm managing, Doc, he said. The chemo's rough, but I'm still here. Marcus's stomach dropped. He waited, until Eli hung up, then confronted him. "You're sick?" Eli's face tightened, but he didn't deny it. "Cancer," he said simply. "Diagnosed last year. It's under control, mostly. I don't want pity, Mr. Jameson." Marcus felt a surge of anger, not at Eli, but at the unfairness of it all. "Why didn't you say anything? We could have helped. I could have helped." Eli shook his head. "I've seen what happens when people know. They start treating you like you're fragile, like you're already gone. I need this job. My family needs me." Marcus didn't press further, but the revelation lit a fire in him. He spent the next few days digging into Eli's records, discreetly pulling strings to learn more. Eli had been working through chemotherapy, taking night shifts to hide his exhaustion, never missing a day. His resilience was staggering, but it was his silence that haunted Marcus. Eli had carried this burden alone, afraid to be seen as weak in a world that already dismissed him. Marcus couldn't let it go. He'd built J-Tech on the principle of rewarding talent, and Eli was a diamond in the rough. He called Eli into his office one evening, the city skyline glittering behind him. "I want you to work for me," Marcus said, sliding a contract across the desk. "Head of International Communications. You'd be our lead translator, consultant, the works. 6 figures, full benefits, stock options." Eli stared at the contract, his face unreadable. "Why?" he asked finally. "Because you're brilliant," Marcus said, "and I've been an idiot for not seeing it sooner." Eli's eyes softened, but he didn't reach for the contract. "I appreciate it, Mr. Jameson, but I'm not sure I'm what you're looking for. I'm just—" "Don't," Marcus interrupted. "Don't say you're just a janitor. You're more than that, and you know it." Eli looked away, his fingers tracing the edge of the contract. "I've got responsibilities. My daughter's in college. My wife's got her own health issues. This job, it's steady. I can't take risks." Marcus leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "This isn't a risk. It's what you deserve." Eli didn't answer, but Marcus could see the war in his eyes. Hope battling fear. The next day, Marcus couldn't shake the image of Eli's hesitation. He'd offered him a dream job, but it wasn't enough. Eli's life was a web of quiet, sacrifices, and a paycheck. Even a big one wouldn't undo the years of being invisible. Marcus spent hours pacing his office, replaying their conversations. Eli wasn't just a linguist. He was a leader, someone who'd faced adversity with grace and grit. Marcus had met countless executives, but none with Eli's depth. Then it hit him. A job wasn't enough. Eli deserved more than a title. He deserved a legacy. Marcus called an emergency board meeting. The executives, used to his brusque efficiency, were stunned when he walked in with Eli at his side. "This is Eli Collins," Marcus said, his voice steady. "And he's my new business partner." The room erupted in murmurs. Eli's eyes widened, but Marcus pressed on. "Eli speaks 9 languages, has a mind sharper than anyone in this room, and has shown more resilience than I've seen in 20 years of running this company. I'm giving him a 50% stake in J-Tech, effective immediately." The board was speechless. Eli looked like he'd been hit by a truck. "Marcus," he whispered, "you can't—" "I can," Marcus said, turning to him. "You've taught me what it means to see people, really see them. This isn't charity. It's justice." The news spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire CEO makes Janitor his partner in stunning move." Social media exploded, with some praising Marcus's vision and others calling it a publicity stunt. But Marcus didn't care about the noise. He cared about Eli. For Eli, the change was overwhelming. He moved from a cramped apartment to a comfortable home. His daughter's tuition was paid off, and his wife's medical bills were covered. But, more than the money, it was the recognition that transformed him. He wasn't invisible anymore. Eli threw himself into his new role with the same quiet intensity he'd brought to his janitorial work. He brokered deals in Mandarin, negotiated contracts in Arabic, and charmed clients in Portuguese. JTech's international division soared, and Eli became a legend in his own right. But he didn't stop there. With Marcus's support, Eli launched the Collins Linguistic Scholarship, a fund for low-income students pursuing careers in language and translation. He mentored dozens of young people, sharing his story and teaching them to embrace their potential, no matter where they started. A year later, Marcus and Eli stood together at the scholarship's first gala, held in JTech's gleaming atrium. The room was filled with students, educators, and executives, all gathered to celebrate the fund's success. Eli, now healthy after beating cancer, took the stage. "I used to think my dreams were out of reach," he said, his voice carrying the weight of years. "But one man saw me, not the mop in my hand, but the man I am. Marcus Jameson didn't just give me a job. He gave me a chance to be who I was, always meant to be." The crowd erupted in applause, and Marcus felt a lump in his throat. He'd spent his life chasing success, but this moment of connection, of changing a life, was worth more than any deal he'd ever closed. As the gala wound down, Marcus and Eli stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city. "You changed me too," Marcus said quietly. "I thought I knew what mattered. I was wrong," Eli smiled, his eyes bright. "We're not done yet, Marcus. There's a lot more to build." And they did. Together they turned JTech into more than a tech giant. It became a beacon of opportunity, a place where talent, no matter how hidden, could shine. Marcus never returned to his old ways. He made it a point to know every employee's name, to ask about their lives, their dreams. He wasn't perfect, but he was trying. And Eli? He became a mentor, a leader, a symbol of what was possible when someone dared to see beyond the surface. Their story wasn't just about a billionaire and a janitor. It was about the power of recognition, the courage to defy expectations, and the truth that greatness can be found in the most unlikely places. And it all started with a voice, echoing through an empty office on a night that changed everything.